We're live. Welcome. We're going to start the poll right away. Okay, poll for today. Should I do a horsepower and happy hour later today with Lisa at our favorite pub? It's Friday night. It's date night. So, but we could do a thing while we're there. So you guys let me know in the poll. Right now, it's at 100%. I love it. Actually, today, what I want to talk about though right now is the thumbnail that I have up is our Dino results. It's a graph showing what happens when we change timing. I do this all the time, not always to show so I can talk about what happens with different timing levels, but we do this as a matter of course for when I tune these combinations. Because when we're running a boosted combination, in this case, if this was an LS, it was a Whipple and a 4.8. So, it had, I think trick flow heads on it, a small camshaft and stuff. And so what we do while we're tuning this thing, we run it NA, tune it, works good, put the map in, just basically double everything at 15 pounds and then interpolate from there. And then we got a fairly good starting point for all that stuff. And then I go in and work on the timing. Okay, let's say this thing wanted 29 degrees of timing, NA, like at 100 kPa or 98, wherever we're at. And so then we start, and it'll have less power down low and more at the power peak. And it will continue that under boost. We will just interpolate that up and start taking timing away relative to boost. So it'll have less timing down low at high boost than it has more timing up high. And so it will continue with that. So what we do though is I take away a lot of timing. So we make it a safe amount where there's no way the thing is going to hurt it, because we're going to work on tuning the air fuel first, and then we'll add the timing. So as soon as we get the air fuel to where it's 11.5, because if we roll in and it seems okay and we release it and have it run for, from 3,000 to 5,000, let's say do a short run, and it starts getting lean at the top, we're like, oh, okay, well, we're going to let off. And we know that now we need to adjust that. Okay, for some reason it wants more timing or it wants more fuel there. So then we adjust that and make sure all that's right. And then we make sure that that's right at every boost level. And then we start doing more runs. And finally we get to a point where we're like, okay, look, it's 11.5 the whole way there at, 10 or 15 degrees of timing, whatever we have it set at. Now we can start adding timing. Okay, let's start adding timing in the range where this thing is running. And that's what we do. And then when we do that, we get, results like this. Okay, look, here's what happens when this particular one was actually one where we got everything perfect at the boost level that we were running it at. And then I'm like, okay, well, now let's run it at, because we had good gas in this thing. We'll run it at 23 degrees, we ran it at 21, we ran it at 19, we ran it at 15. And I wanted to drop it down to 15 so that we could run it in a range where guys would use it for pump gas, let's say. And I wanted to show, the effect of timing on these things is pretty dramatic. The effect of air fuel is not that. If we were to run this thing at 10.5 to 1 instead of 11.5 to 1, it'd be a handful of horsepower. It'd be not very much at all. But when we change the timing, it's dramatic. So if we have to run 15 degrees, which would be a number that you would run under boost, especially double-digit boost on pump gas, this thing made 462 horsepower. It's not a lot. But when we put the timing in it that the thing wants, the chamber and stuff, where we ran 23 degrees, so that's a jump of 8 degrees of timing, this thing made more than 100 horsepower more. In fact, it made almost 120 more horsepower. It made 580 instead of 460. And it went up each time, as you can see in the thumbnail. You can see in the graph, 15 pounds, it made 462. At 19 pounds, it made 522. At 21 pounds, it made 550. And at 23 pounds, it made 580. And on the last one, we revved it a little bit higher. So the difference between 21 and 23 degrees is actually not that much had we continued to run the 21 degrees out at a higher RPM range. Because this thing it had a rising boost curve and wanted to kind of continue to make power. It had a short runner intake, so it was getting efficient out there. This was out at like 6,500 RPM. So it wanted to make power out there. But the thing is, this shows you that, okay, yeah, you can run, like, hey, I want to run boost. I run on pump gas because I can't get E85 and I don't want to put, race gas in it, which is understandable. Race gas is very expensive. I don't think that that's an option for driving around. I mean, I don't have race gas kind of money. E85 definitely, because we have access to it. It's easily accessed where I'm at, and we can go get it and run around. So lots of guys are running around on that. Even though the fuel mileage is worse, I wouldn't give up 120 horsepower, because it got a little bit worse fuel mileage. Also, some of that is offset by the fact that, at least here, E85 is less money than pump gas is. And this is particularly true of the guys trying to put, I want a turbo motor, but I can only put regular gas in. I can only put 87 in. You can get away with that, but you'd have to run even less timing than this. So you're stripping all the power away from it. And, and guys can argue, well, I can run a little bit more boost and take the timing away. And yeah, you can play with all that, but it's going to be a lot less. No matter what your combination is, it's going to be a whole bunch less. And so, it begs it. The other thing that this shows, what I was going to say is it makes you wonder, okay, which way should you go? Should you not even put that on there? Should you put it on there and just run pump gas and deal with the big loss in power? Should you go up in displacement and down in compression, and then maybe you can get away with more? Should all of those things be considerations when you're talking about it? I think probably yes. The other thing to think about is, and what this shows is that also, if you have the tune incorrect, let's say that you have a good combination, you have a turbo motor, or like this one, a Whipple blower motor, or Vortec, or whatever, and you are tuning it, or somebody else is tuning it, and for some reason they make it ultra safe, or don't know where the thing is, like where the little bubble is going. Like, they don't know where this thing is transitioning to, and so they're not tuning the right area, which I've seen that happen too. And so, but at any rate, if they have 15 degrees of timing in this thing instead of 23 like it wants, even if they have good enough gas, this shows what would happen and how much power they leave on the table. It also shows, because we would get to a point, we didn't just keep going up in boost on this Whipple charge thing, but you get to a point where you don't keep adding power. Like, you don't keep adding power until you get to NA timing levels. That just doesn't happen. You get to a point where there are usually no more gains, or the gains are very, very minimal. And all you're doing is pushing it closer and closer to the detonation limit where you're going to break something. And that's the thing. Do you want to walk that tightrope between, I need those last 2 horsepower? No, I never do that. Well, I don't say never. We have broken stuff. But not because I wanted every last horsepower. More than likely, it would be because I just made a mistake. But that's something that you don't want to happen. For 2 reasons. One, you don't want a broken motor, but also because as you push further and further in timing, and you're trying to make the air fuel real spicy, I'm going to run it at 12 to 1 or 12.5 to 1. You're doing that. The gains that you get from that, as you get closer and closer to that transition point where you go from, it's a little better, now it's broke, you don't get much. The horsepower gains are going to be the onesies and twosies, and that's just not worthwhile doing that. Here, where we went from 15 to 23 degrees, and 23 degrees is a reasonable amount at the boost level that we were running and on the fuel that we were running, but we got 120 horsepower. If you go up to 25 degrees, maybe you gain 4 or 5 or 6 or 2 or 1, whatever it is. It's just not worth it at some point, because you'll get closer and closer to where it tells you that, hey, look, on that last run, you went too far. and now you have broken pistons, which is not good. That's not a good thing to have. So, like I said, if you go, look, if I run one more degree of timing, I can add 100 horsepower, but I could also detonate it. But with 100 horsepower, I could win the race. Yeah, then you do it. But if you go, I'm going to add one more degree of timing, and I'm going to get 2 horsepower, and that's not even going to be a noticeable amount in any sort of race that I would be racing in, why would I do that? You're just putting yourself in potential jeopardy for really no payoff. Like 120 horsepower, yeah, you might consider that. 1 or 2 horsepower, no, not so much. A whole bunch less of that. Oh, let's see what you guys got going on. Really, we're only at 84% of people wanting that. Wow, it's always at like 15 or 16%. Eric, Turbocentric, Jordan, Garrett. I was just looking at something with your name on it today. I think it was might have been a shipping label or something. I bought a Camaro, looking to go with aluminum heads. I have double hump heads on it now. I can tell you that I can't think of a bad set of aluminum heads that you would replace that wouldn't be better than Fuelie heads. Even a bad set of aluminum heads, I think, are going to be better, unless they break or something. But almost everything out there is going to flow better than the set of Fuelie heads. Looking to upgrade, what's good head? I would go to, if you want to, you can even keep it as a Fuelie head, as a double hump head. Use the new Trick Flow ones. I have a set of their big ones now, and we're going to run it on that small block 400 that I have. But they have replacement heads for those that have that look that a lot of guys paint, and you know, oh yeah, those are Fuelie heads. Those are double humps, camel humps, whatever. Should I even consider turning up the boost? 10.7 to 1 LQ4 pump gas does have flex fuel tune and sensor, but I don't always run flex fuel. Today I'm at 39.8% alcohol. I don't know. I have no idea how much timing you have. I don't know what your charge temperature is. I don't know any of that stuff. Got a chat question. Trying to get the small block Chevy 350 in the Fox body. Should I just use a motor plate and a mid plate, or stock mount location? Some street driving and drags. If you're worried about it moving around, you could solidly mount it, but those things transmit so much stuff into the driver's compartment. I've run solid mounts in my Fox body before, and I just hated it. I don't think that the small block Chevy that you have is not like 1,000 horsepower kind of race thing. So I think you could get away with, if somebody makes a kit that has mounts in it, just put mounts on it. 16 degrees and 12 pounds. It's probably in the safe range. What pump gas are you running it on? Or is it 93 or 91? I'd love you to test high compression. It's 91 gas. We've run that a lot. The 468 and the 495 and the 454 were all 12 to 1 or better, and they all ran on 91. They have big cams in them, and we're running them cold, so we could get away with a lot of stuff that you can't get away with on the street. I haven't been boozing at all in 5 months. Your brain works better? Yeah, it probably would, right? Yeah, the one thing I could say about the 454 that Brian Tooley did, the stroker that he did, made just over 700, and he put it in a Corvette and drove it around in that Corvette in that condition and ran it. It had like I said, it had a good sized camshaft in it, but drove it around in that Corvette, and actually it was fast. So he did it in the real world with 12 to 1. I think his was on 93 also, because he was back in Kentucky. I got all alcohol out in 2021 and never looked back. Jordan, were you drinking lots of beer? Is that why the weight came off? Start dropping power when you pass minimum for best torque. I thought MBT stands for something else. I thought it's maximum brake torque. Is a bigger throttle body on an LS option better for torque? No, a bigger throttle body doesn't do anything other than I like to match the throttle body size to the opening in the intake manifold. But if you have a 78 millimeter opening in your intake and you put a 90 millimeter throttle body on there, it's not going to do anything. If you have a 102 millimeter opening on your like fast intake manifold and you have a stock throttle body on there, and then you put a bigger throttle body on there, then you can gain power if the motor needs more airflow. And you can gain but it's not going to be for low speed torque production. The gains that you get from a bigger throttle body will increase with engine speed because the airflow demand increases with engine speed also. What works best, more timing and less compression, or more compression and less timing? Why would you choose between those two things? What works best is more compression and the optimum amount of timing based on the octane. Charge temps are 120 to 130 at worst case scenario, but usually around 100 to 110. I mean, you could always try another pound of boost. You have knock sensors on it, right? 93 when I can get it, sometimes 91, sometimes E85, which is at best 65 to 70%. But it doesn't have to be E85 for you to get everything out of it. If it's at 65 or 70%, you're already getting everything out of it. The difference between 70 and E85, you're not taking advantage of, so it doesn't matter. Textbook definition is minimum for best torque. Huh. Do an L8T 6.6. I don't have any of those, and I don't have any of those scheduled. But Brian has done one back at his place, and I can get some data from lots of testing that they've done. Any idea what kind of timing I could get away with? You're going to have to try it and see and listen for detonation. With an Edelbrock Performer PM D-shaped cylinder heads on E85 and 18 pounds of boost. It's a Pro Charger, drops to about 12 PSI in the shift, works back to 18. You should be able to run all the timing with that. What engine is it and how much timing did it want NA? And then we can kind of decide kind of where it's going to be for 18 pounds on anything is going to be a lot of power on E85. Lots of Heineken, eating unhealthy, no exercise. Yeah, that's not good. Eat moderate, rollerblade, 10 to 20 miles. Rollerblade, huh? I haven't seen those in a long time. So I do need to change my car's name from Turbo Sentra to Supercharger Sentra. Is that what you have? Do you have a blower on it? Minimum for best torque makes sense. So I like that better because I'm always at you should run the least amount of boost possible to make the power that you want, and you should run the least amount of timing that you can to make the most amount of power. Cool. I'll start with 1 pound at a time. It's a forged motor. Yeah, you're not at a strength limit thing. So, and a kick butt low butt truck cam. Send me an idle clip if you can. People have been asking for idle clips, and I don't know if I have any idle clips from the engine dyno. It's an aftermarket harmonic balancer with a smaller pulley, worth buying for horsepower gain. For what, Brandy? For what application? Scrolling. RB motor, 451, 36 NA. Oh, wow. Cool. I don't know anything about those heads, but what are you running now? 36. It's it's honestly probably going to want like 28 or 29 degrees. 20 O2 sensors for a 5.3 swap tune. I don't know what you mean by a swap tune. Are you going to be running it in closed loop? If you're going to be running it in closed loop, you need O2 sensors. It's in the works. Okay, Turbo Sentry, you're going to get something going with a supercharger on there. Are you not happy with the turbo? I'm still kicking around putting the AMR 500, a good AMR 500, back on the Metro, and then running it with the Holley single barrel deal, the single barrel EFI, but then putting a turbo on it because a turbo is going to be better. Because everything's better with a turbo. Everything's better with a turbo on it. Well, the turbo want to try something different. Yeah, that's good. And we should always try weird things. I mean, look at me. I bought a way overpriced Metro because I had $150 supercharger. Yeah, you could run both. And even if you just run one and hook up both, twin charge Metro. I would only do that if I had the ability to tune it. Richard, have you ever tested what improvements a twin scroll turbo provides? I've never built a twin scroll exhaust for a twin scroll turbo, so I've never tested that. And I don't know exactly how you would do that other than testing it with an exhaust that doesn't have divided tubes and then one that does, to see if that does anything. Because I don't know how you compare a twin scroll turbo to a non-twin scroll turbo because of the dramatic change in flow of the hot side. I mean, that's going to be something all by itself. Had an issue with my 317 heads, so I took the 706 heads and my 5.3 and really woke up the LQ4. Yeah, 706 heads would be a big change from 317 heads on an LQ4. It'd be 20 or 25 horsepower, I'm sure. It would be a bunch. It'd be a bunch of lunch. Man, needing to shave here. Took Bruno and Brady for a run, and then took Milo for a walk. It's all good. Got to take care of the puppies. Got to take care of the littles. There. So 88%. We saw a similar thing on the timing. If you look at the thumbnail, we saw a similar thing. When I did a couple of episodes with Freiberger and Dulcich on Engine Masters. We did a tuning episode, and it was I don't know, a small block Chevy or Dodge or something. I can't remember what motor it was, which is odd for me. I'm starting to worry about my memory here. But we ran that, and then we showed what effect timing has and what effect air fuel has, which is a test we've all done a bunch of times. And going from like 9-1 to 13-1 had it had some power, but not any. Like a lot of guys say, "Oh, I put a carburetor on there. It's just way too rich. It's just killing power." It doesn't kill power. It's like 20 or 25 or whatever. It's not very much, but the timing, when you start stripping timing out of it, it could be like we saw on this thing. It could be 100 or more. It's a lot. Scott's in the house. Did you have a good time last night? D Sport Online did a test on a twin scroll versus a non-twin scroll. Only decent test that I've seen is worth reading. Did they do it on a chassis dyno? Because if they did, I worry. I worry when people do turbo tests and don't have like a whole bunch of back-to-back data before they make a change to see the variation in what happens with turbos from temperature and stuff. And you know, I just want all the data to be right. 799 heads milled 30 would be better than 706 heads for horsepower. For what are you talking about? Not on a 5.3 and not down low on a 6-liter. Chassis dyno, they not only did power pulls, but timed acceleration runs between speeds. That would be cool on, I almost think that might be better because if they loaded the motor the same between the timed runs to see, you could see spool rate. Like if you data logged the response rate of the turbo, you know, if you you're data logging boost, you should be able to see in the real world, wherever that is, you should be able to see that change. But like I said, the thing that I want to see before I look at any other data that's post change, I want to see this group of data be exactly the same. I want to see them make 5 or 6 runs where what they're doing, where the boost curve is exactly the same, the power curve is the same, the timing is the same, the temperature is the same, all those things are the same, where they go, hey, look, this is our baseline. It's not just one baseline, which I see a lot of, because I see guys make one baseline and then make another one, and then the other one doesn't correlate with the first one, and they just pick one of those. Well, which one is it? That's why I want to see a whole bunch of baseline stuff where it's the same, and then make a change, and then make a change, and then make quite a few of those where they're the same. That's one thing I like about the way that Engine Masters did it, and this was Brule, is when they did tests, they would do 3 runs and do an average of 3 runs. And then so this average would be their beginning and their average would be their end, which helps fill in some of those anomalies, which I think is a fantastic idea. Any intercooling plan for the Metro? Yeah, we ran the chili bomb, the first official chili bomb test. So my 451, I'm at 26 degrees. Okay. Timing for 18 PSI. I've worked up to that at the track. It keeps picking up mile an hour. Plugs show I can go a little more. 28 be might where it ends up. I'm guessing because I don't know that much about Dodge stuff. But I know when we run big block Chevys, if it wants to run like 36 or 37 or whatever, or 8 degrees, if we put a roots blower on it, it wants to run at 30 degrees. And it surprises me that guys do that. But after going through this a bunch of time with Brule, he's like, yeah, it's going to just put good gas in it, put it at 30. That's where it's going to want to be. Did not drink sufficient quantities of alcohol, making me continue to work. Uh-oh. I voted yes on the horsepower happy hour thing. She does class up the joint quite a bit. On an LS 53799 milled would not be better. I don't know what interested 30,000 is. Do you think 30? Are you talking about milled 30,000s? Do you think I'll have a detonation at 10-to-1 compression running cast iron heads? On what motor is that? And the iron thing is part of it, but so too is the chamber design and the piston design and the octane and the air temperature and the water temperature, all that stuff. How would 862s do on a 5.3? They're exactly the same as a 706 head, so they would do exactly the same. How much torque does a 706 add on an early 6-liter where the stock cam originally had 317s? I think it would add 20 foot-pounds or something. It'd be quite a bit. When I tested the 799 and 706 heads, the difference in chamber size between the two heads I tested was 2.5 cc's. So this thing of all of the 799 guys thinking, oh, it's just compression. It's not. It's not just that. And the 799, like the flow rate of the 799 head, it is better quite a bit. It's bigger valves, bigger ports, everything. And the 799 and 243 have good chamber designs like the 706 does, and the 317 does not have that. The 799s are good, and they made more power at the peak, but they didn't make more power down low. And 2.5 cc's of combustion chamber size difference is not going to be that torque. That torque also comes from smaller port, smaller valve. Trying to figure out, as I have two sets of heads, stock 706 and 799s, and 799s are milled 30. That you're not going to have a bad choice there. I don't know why you wouldn't just put the 799s on there. We're discussing 1 or 2 horsepower here. It's not even a real amount. Todd, oh, you did a compression test, 30 pounds. So you broke a piston, it sounds like. Or was only one of them like that, Todd, or were 2 of them? Were they adjacent? Did you blow a head gasket? Been considering changing countries? You can go to the Philippines. 862 heads are the same as 706 heads. Putting 706s on my LQ4 made it really peppy. If I brake boost, it can melt the tires through second gear. Nice. It is a big change. I mean, it's like the change between a long runner intake manifold and a short runner intake manifold. I have 317 and 706 head tests up there, and we have it under boost also. So you can see the more torque that you have down low translates into better boost response. And it's just more power everywhere at the same, if we use the measurement of having them be at the same boost level, then more power makes more power. Hot rods aren't really a thing in the Philippines. Yeah, they are. I think it's a head gasket. Okay. Where should I install the inlet air temperature sensor on my intake manifold? Here, the throttle body is easier. Should I put it in the runner instead, front or back? I would say that to get the best measurement, the measurement that I would want would be down in the runner. But you can also tune it with the inlet air temperature sensor anywhere. As long as it's getting a good, consistent reading, you can tune that. Oh, American hot rods. Okay. You're living Cabanatuan City? Wow. That's where they had a death march. Throttle body should be great. Be mindful to put it somewhere it won't be subjected to heat soak. LQ4, S475, 4-inch downpipe, stock exhaust, made 7 pounds of boost on the spring, put in a boost actuated cutout, and boost jumped to 12 pounds on the spring. You should have measured back pressure, because what you had was back pressure was helping open the wastegate. And now you've eliminated that. But a 7-pound spring should not allow 12 pounds of boost. It should be open unless you don't have enough wastegate. It wasn't Cabanatuan? I thought that. Oh, Baton Death March. Okay, that's right. You were right, Scott. Could try surfing. Periodic typhoons build killer waves. Do they have lots of sharks there? I know that they have. My brother was born in the Philippines. Um, they have lots of cool lizards there, though. Monitors and iguanas and stuff. Do some GM cylinders atomize fuel better than others? Cylinder heads, I'm assuming. I don't. Does the head port? I don't think the head port is responsible for much fuel atomization. That's usually done by the injector itself. And then maybe, I don't know, the burn rate would be chamber design and stuff, but not atomization. I've had 2 cookies. Have you eaten all of them yet? Are all the peanut butter cookies gone? Cabana Tuan was something happened there. I think something from the fraternity happened there. I think I'm remembering. I think that's what it was. Should I do horsepower happy hour later today with Lisa at our favorite pub? 88% saying yes. I think some heads probably do atomize fuel better than others. Do you think it's a surface finish? Do you think it's a port velocity thing or something? And yeah, how are you gonna determine atomization effect? Are you gonna count the size and number of fuel droplets before and after the port? That'd be really hard to do. Melissa be featured or holding the camera? No, she's just sitting there with me. She's on camera. I meant to say cylinder head. I'm sure that should be rec port. Rec port would make a difference in how fuel can hit something and slow down. But the fact that the fuel would be in a slower port might not affect atomization. The atomization might have already happened. The droplet size may have already been predetermined by spraying through the injector. A big rec port is definitely going to be lazier than a cathedral port is. We see that in the torque production down low. Is Lisa pretty chill with doing a tech talk happy? Yeah, she's there for the drinks. Yeah, Scott, that's what I'm talking about. There was a thing that happened that we learned about in our fraternity when I was in college. Something that happened there. At Cabana Tuan that we talked about, and I don't know why I was putting that together with a Death March. EV6 has 4 holes. Others have more. Did it go like the Baton Death March? Was it to that prison facility? Maybe that's what I'm thinking of. I wonder if all the atomization is happening from the injector. I know that they've always told us, like, an intake manifold, you don't want, or in cylinder heads too, you don't want a smooth port because if a rough port atomizes the fuel better. I'd like to see that. I'd like to see the result of that. I'd like to see that, and if that is happening, I would like to see if it's happening more or less at wide open throttle and part throttle. Like, is it more pronounced at part throttle? Is it more pronounced at wide open throttle? Yeah, Stefan, it definitely is. Shearing is definitely affected by fuel pressure. And we've tried doing that. We were doing it trying to get fuel mileage because droplet size and fuel mileage go together. And we were trying to get, by increasing the fuel pressure and taking pulse width away, we were trying to achieve that, getting more of the fuel to be converted into vapor, and utilizing a bigger percentage of it and supplying less of it if we could. I don't know how successful we are. The death march was to several prison camps, but the one mentioned was the only one where the POWs were rescued. Okay. I'd like to know what's a good injector size for my 5.44 valve. Just tell me if you tell me the power output, then we can give you an injector size. Think of air and fuel as spaghetti and sauce. They don't want to mix together. I guess vacuum conditions would atomize and vaporize fuel better. There might be more shearing effect from that. And then the speed at which does the fuel, if it's atomized and we have, 100,000 small droplets, do they converge back together if given time and then become bigger droplet sizes? So become less atomized over time. So if we give it more time to transition from the time that they got to be atomized to the time that they went in the combustion chamber and were burned, is that going to cause problems? So at wide open throttle, is that going faster? Is it going slower? There's lots of cool stuff. Patent idea, heated fuel injectors. Jordan says the cheap eBay trans temperature things work good. I've checked against the mechanical gauge. Subtle change of subject coming up in 500 naturally aspirated. You don't need a very big injector for that. So if you take the injector size for a V8, the flow rate of 80 pounds, 50 pounds, 30 pounds, multiply it by 16, that gives you the power output. So just pick something that will support 500 horsepower, which is, what's that? 30 is 48, right? 30 is 480. 30 times 16. Yeah, that's right. 30 and 18. Yeah, that's 48. So you're going to need something 36, 40 or bigger. And you can go bigger if you can tune it because, let's face it, eventually we're all going to put a turbo on there, right? Have you noticed with GM LS heads a difference in design and chamber design and how fuel swirls inside the chamber with air before combustion? So how would you see any of that? You can see a little bit of evidence on that. I maybe from the piston. It'd be a lot of disassembly and assembly of the heads. Some of that's piston design related too. But there's definitely a difference in power that we see from chamber design. Not just chamber size, but also chamber design. I'm busy trying to tune my car for 100 octane pump gas. Where do you get that? I'm down to 16 degrees of timing through the torque peak at 24 psi. I need to pull a little more, but I'm worried about exhaust valve temperature. What motor is it? Haven't had it on Dino. It's got a mega squirt. ECU Coyote intake stage 3 turbo cams. Okay. Well, just give yourself a bunch of leeway. Because there's nothing hurt in putting a bigger injector in than you need. There's definitely a problem than if you put a smaller injector that you need in there, but a bigger one's fine. In diesels, higher injection pressure absolutely improves atomization. Yep. Decreases droplet size. But that's very high pressure stuff, yeah. Yeah, when you start talking about bars of pressure, it's a lot. When going from E85 to 93, it's going to be a lot. It's going to be like 8 or 10 degrees. Building an LQ4 706 heads, Trailblazer SS, 92 millimeter throttle body, long tube headers, or 50-pound injectors too large. No, there's no such thing as too large. We run 80s on almost everything. Everything that we put on the dyno gets, almost every LS that we put on there gets 80s. Even a stock 4.8 gets 80s. Put long tube headers on it? Yes. And a low buck truck cam. Yeah, that's good. Greg, yours a 2.02 2-liter Subaru. Okay. Yeah, I'm not too hip on tuning of those. I don't know what a Subaru motor wants NA, then I could get a kind of a relative idea on what it would want under boost. But you're not going to hurt anything by running a little less torque near or before the torque peak. Who cares if you leave 10 or 20 foot-pounds on the table there? It doesn't matter. Just, make more. Have some heavy stainless steel rockers. Should I change to push rods for bending sake? No. The stainless steel rocker is really not going to affect that much. You'd affect it more with spring rate and RPM and frequency. My LQ4 is running 80s. I'm at 60% duty cycle at 12 pounds with an eBay 525 pump from Fuel Injector Clinic. You're good then. That's a sweet spot for everything, right? Just installed a cam with 17 degrees of overlap. My junkyard 6-liter. Sounds amazing. Cool. Overlap can be good. That's what helps us make power. Jay, I don't know what I don't know what the specs are in your cams or anything, and I've never run a Coyote intake on a 5.4. Scott wants to know if anybody bought a 2.7 max turbo truck. This is a good question, and the answer is yes. My 4.8 Yukon is ticking, lifter tick. Should I do a cam and lifters and see if that fixes it? Also been wanting a cam. Yeah, so definitely get a cam. I think I'd continue to use the lifters. Maybe just clean them and then put them back in. I wish you'd try the intake. I don't have any modular forwards to try it on. What days do you have this live chat? Usually every day. I have them usually 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time at night, and then I do one during the day that's a lot of times random. Yeah. Oh, if you have extra used injectors or whatever, that works fine. I mean, lifters. Yeah. Definitely get yourself a cam. I know a guy that's selling them for $179, so that's a good deal. Big power, low price. It's a good combination. Oh, I wanted to read you guys. Let's see if I did I get rid of this thing already? I wanted to read you guys a where is it? Spam, trash, maybe. I think we already got rid of it. I got a spam thing from some sergeant in the military that was saying that while they're on patrol somewhere fighting ISIS, that they at some village came across a barrel of money or whatever, and that they decided that rather than turn it in, they were going to keep it and split it amongst themselves, and that he, it's the Nigerian prince scam thing, but that he went through a Red Cross because he was injured and now needs to get the money out, and so if I can send him my information that would help him, and then he would pay me a percentage of that, whatever the money is and stuff. I'm like, really? Dude, that's disrespectful to our military. How many cams do you have? I have enough. A Deutschwerk 60-pound injectors on my little 1.4 turbo cruise. Very cool. I like those. Running 85. Still can get to 70% duty cycle on 70% ethanol. That's good. Would flex fuel injector supply enough fuel for a low buck truck cam on a 5.3? I think it would. I can't remember what the flex fuel injector rating was, but it's fairly high though. Have you noticed a difference in horsepower and torque regards to oil you use? Yeah, you'll see a change. You can see a change between synthetic and non-synthetic a little bit, but you can certainly see, I have videos up on oil tests that I've done, so you could look at those videos. But certainly from different oil viscosities, and sometimes on some applications, particularly the modular Ford, we saw that they didn't like particular oil viscosities because we think it's because, and this is from talking to Behovitz, this is what they had discovered, that the lash adjusters on those, the flow orifice for like a lifter or this lash adjuster, which is essentially the same thing, don't like a heavier oil, I guess. And so it was messing with that and not allowing it to act the way that it should act. So it was less about, windage and the amount of parasitic loss associated with driving the oil pump, having to drive against the thicker oil, that kind of thing. And it had to do with instability of the lash adjuster and stuff. So there's some kind of cool stuff there. I wouldn't look for big power there. You can definitely look for power from windage from oil pan design or dry sump, wet sump kind of thing, but usually not from, I bought 1030 versus 1040 or something. Scrolling. 1.5 atmospheres. JJ, thanks for the kind words. And now it looks like I'll be doing one tonight because we're 91%. So that means we have to do one. And this one will be earlier. In fact, this one will be in not too long, probably. Just finished ball honing my 5.3, 250,000 miles on it. I have a new set of GM piston rings. Check the ring gap there. And there was only 1,000th difference between the new and the old. Yeah, I try to tell people, and we don't know what that other one was before it was run. So that's not the variation, but it does tell us what's going on. What brand do you guys recommend for parts for these motors? I'm going to start building this 4.8. For what kind of parts are you looking at? Have you ever run the sloppy stage 2 against the best cam? I'd have to go look. I don't think I have. I don't think I've run that directly. I may have compared like a Truck Norris versus a sloppy stage 2, and then a Truck Norris versus a best cam. But I can't remember now if those were on the same motors. I don't think that they were. I think one of those was on a 5.7. But I kind of have an idea what would happen between those two. A sloppy stage 2 would make more peak power. It certainly would do that. Flat top or dish pistons in a 5-4 valve. I have flat tops in it right now. Well, it's going to have better compression for that, right? I just make sure that you have piston to valve clearance for the cams that you have. My coworker and I have decided we can accurately guess horsepower of most LS combinations due to your plethora of dyno videos. Just guessing how much loss is an engine gain with full exhaust and accessories. So are you guessing chassis dyno numbers based on engine dyno numbers, or what are you guessing? What parts do you guys use brand wise? I don't know what you're asking. Like for what parts? Because obviously there's different manufacturers for different parts. Scott, thanks for the kind words. Sorry, just got in. Wish I lived near you to do a happy hour. Yeah, that'd be good. Wings are good. Yep. Yeah, we usually get the happy hour. Always has the the deals on snacks and stuff. So it's good. Probably likes $19.99. I just got back from a run, so I'm good. Cam intake, just performance parts. For an LS, I would go to BTR. Summit has good stuff too. Richard, you did that cam test of sloppy best and sloppy stage 2. You're saying I did do that test? Picked up an LY6 yesterday to rebuild, but the guy had a bunch of alloy 5.3s. Rare in the UK. It's kind of tempting to buy one of those. They are good. I mean, the 6 liter is going to make more power, but an aluminum 5.3 is also cool. Like to go to the drags and guess ET by the sound of the engine. I remember a guy telling us when I was at the show shop, there was a really sharp guy that they knew that said that he could determine the power output by the exhaust frequency, which I thought was amazing if that was actually possible. Let LS on the dyno with accessories and exhaust versus no accessories and free flow and no muffler. Well, I already have that video up, so we know what the accessories take. Yes, you did that test, and I watched it last night. Well, what was it called? Because I don't remember testing a best cam versus a sloppy stage 2, but I could have, I guess. Let's see here. I have tested the sloppy stage 2 a lot, but I haven't tested the best cam a lot, though. Let's see here. Truck Norris, Red Hot, none of that stuff. I didn't run it on the L33. Don't think. Not that. Let's see. Not there either. Let's see. Here's some data. I think I have some data from Brian that might have that. I think I might have data from Brian's testing. I think they may. Well, no, that's not going to be it either, because I don't think that he would have ever tested a sloppy stage 2. I don't think. I don't know. I'll have to go back and look at that and see. Is the 5.4 just as good as a 5 liter? No, a 5.4 4-valve is not as good a motor as a 5 liter Coyote is. It doesn't make the same amount of power. We do wings in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania on Tuesdays. Best wings in the area. Everybody says that about the wing thing. Get out this way, I'll take you. I do like wings. I don't like hot wings though. I'm not a spicy person. I mean, I always put hot sauce, I put mild sauce on my Taco Bell stuff. And I like chips and salsa and all that stuff. But I'm not one of those guys who goes for the mega death wings or whatever. That's not my thing. £23 on 1.4 gets north of 225. Horsepower by frequency. Can he witch an engine with a couple of sticks? He does it with the bones. He throws the bones. Your truck plus is comparable to the best. Yeah, it would be, yeah. I saw something on a Cobalt SS with a supercharger once. That seemed like a cool combo. I went to the Anchor Bar in Buffalo, New York. What do you think of GO5 antifreeze for aluminum? I don't think I've ever tried it. I don't know that I've ever even heard of it. That's giving you a balancer. Timing mark seems way off. When we suspect that, like I had a 351 Windsor that we got from the wrecking yard way back, and the balancer was stick welded. The inner and the outer part were stick welded together. So we're like, yeah, there's something going on here. So we TDC'd the motor, and the timing mark was way off because it had already slipped. And so the guy just welded it, I guess, so that it wouldn't continue to slip because all the rubber stuff had gone away. And he just took out a coat hanger, it looked like, and went to town on it. 91%. That's good. That's a good amount. We got one more minute. One of the things that I like a lot when I go down to West Tech is Pizza Pirate has really good pizza. So when we get like delivery pizza, we get it from Pizza Pirate. And they also had, and I think they still do, they're called hot honey wings. And so they're, sweet and spicy. So those are good. I like that. Honey barbecue special pizza. I actually reached out to Tony Angelo. I haven't heard back from him. I wanted to do something with Tony. With T-Dog. And on that note, I'll see you guys all later, hopefully at Happy Hour and Horsepower tonight, which I'm going to be going over there pretty soon. Thumbs up. Thumbs up.